All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. If you've been enjoying our content, please make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate your support. We got a Big 12 matchup on our hands here. Houston at BYU. BYU has been struggling as of late, for lack of better words, but just dropped a game to Oklahoma State, hopefully to get back on track. I mean, this is not a great game, a great matchup to try to get back on track. Houston has been as advertised all year, but Houston is the favorite, 2.5 points. Could probably be a little more. I think Marcus is going to touch base on that. But Marcus, I'm going to let you take it away here, actually. What does BYU have to do to get back on track? What are their keys to the game?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. They've been like, this is no game, like you said, to get back on track. They've lost 4 of 5. They've given up 84, 78 to Utah in their lone win, 86, 90, and 99 the other night to Oklahoma State. And for anybody that watched that game, that was one of the most ridiculous performances on the defensive end I think I've ever seen. I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration, but that was incredibly pathetic on the defensive end. Like right from the get-go, Oklahoma State was getting whatever they wanted, and it didn't help that BYU turned it over 11 times in like the first 10 minutes of the game, which led to even more chaos. Oklahoma State getting out in transition. They finished some pretty wild circus shots early. So credit to them. Really had the home crowd behind them. But BYU ended up, they were down 39-24, I think it was. And they went 17-2 to close the half. So it was 41-41 coming out of halftime. BYU gets up 5 early in the second half, and it looks like they're starting to pull away. And then just the wheels fell off. I mean, defensively, they were terrible. Oklahoma State got literally wherever they wanted. And if they didn't get where they wanted, it's because BYU fouled them, which led to Oklahoma State shot 34 free throws. Some of them were down the stretch. But they just have not played well whatsoever. It looks like kind of like Kevin Young has been getting frustrated with Rob Wright a little bit. He only played 29 minutes last night. He's kind of struggled a little bit as of late. Hasn't taken care of the ball very well. To me, it hasn't looked like he's really made the right play a lot of times. He's taken a lot of bad shots. He's a good player, so he's made some of them, but the ones that he does miss seem to stand out a little bit more. And then on the defensive end, he's one of their point of attack defenders that's getting kind of cooked right now. And, this BYU team just doesn't have a lot of depth, right? We talked about it coming into the season. And so it's been a real struggle. So that's enough, I guess, on their recent stuff. But, looking ahead to this game, like, it doesn't get any easier. You're now playing a Houston team that is playing very well right now. Obviously, they had that loss at Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago. But they've been playing well. They beat down UCF the other day. Without that loss at Texas Tech, they've been great. Since November 25th, they hadn't lost a game. Excuse me, and they'd really been playing well, locking down on the defensive end, like we're accustomed to with this Houston team. So it's not going to be an easy task, and they've got like a guy like Kingston Flemings that can really take you off the bounce and get downhill. He's been phenomenal, a leading scorer now. So I have big concerns with that area. BYU is really going to have to control the ball, in particular him, another guy, Uzan, they're going to have to control. It's not going to be easy. Fortunately, they're at home for this game, right? So contain the basketball is going to be their biggest key, based on what I saw the other night, what we've seen recently. Keep Houston off the glass, right? Houston's 16th in offensive rebound rate. BYU does a good job on the defensive glass, but even still, like it's not. They don't have a bunch of depth in the front court where they're able to just throw more bodies out there. And like Ahmed's really struggled, in my opinion, as of late. Like 2 rebounds last night in his 12 minutes. It just doesn't look pretty when he's out there. So I think those are going to be the keys on the defensive end. On the offensive end, like they need to take care of the basketball, right? They've been good so far this season, but the other night it was really ugly and chaotic. A lot of jump to pass type situations, trying to drive single gaps, getting the ball ripped, and taken away, and Oklahoma State getting out in transition. So you got to take care of the ball against the third-ranked turnover rate defense in Houston. I think they have the ability to offensive rebound in this game. As we always talk about with the Houston defense, that's the one area that they're always going to be vulnerable. They're 236th in defensive rebound rate. Just the chaos that they play with, the physicality, like they get out of position a lot on the defensive glass. So BYU, I think, can pick up some extras here in this matchup, which of course would go a long way. I think just quickly 2 other things. Make shots against the Houston team that does give up the 3 ball at a decent clip. Like they do defend it well, but they're going to also give up their fair share, I think, of open ones. And then finally, I think it's controlling the tempo, right? If you can get out and transition a little bit against this Houston team, try and make this a faster paced game. Like Houston wants to play this game much slower. They're 348th in tempo. Get out and run, get them out of position, generate extras. I think that would go a long way for BYU to pick up a much needed victory.
Yeah, this is definitely a much needed win for BYU if they can pull it off. I mean, the thing is too, their offense has not been that bad. I mean, you mentioned Rob Wright, of course, has not been the best, probably like up to his potential, but Saunders and Debansa, I think, have been playing very well. Debansa scored 36 last game. There's been a couple off nights, but he has the ball in his hands so much.
Yeah,
but Marcus,
and
go ahead.
I guess just with Rob Wright, like statistically speaking, if you just look at his numbers, it doesn't look
not bad. Yeah,
no, like his numbers are very good. 17.4, 5 assists a game. I just think as of late, like it appears as though, just based on Kevin Young's reactions on the sidelines at times, like he's sometimes subbing him out when he appears frustrated with him. So I think just lately he hasn't exactly been doing what maybe Kevin Young has necessarily wanted him to do.
Yeah, I think just the defense is what needs to change. Of course, the intensity just all around defensively, they need to be better. But Cody, I'm going to let you talk about Houston now and their keys to the game, what they need to do to come out of BYU with a win.
Yeah, just to touch on the Rob Wright stuff a little bit. I mean, BYU's capped a little bit on both ends of the floor, in my opinion. I think they're too reliant on 2 or 3 guys, and the defense obviously has point of attack issues, like Marcus mentioned. But I mean, Rob Wright, his efficiency against top tier comp has been much lower. Overall in the season, he has a 52.7% effective field goal percentage. You filter that for only against tier A competition, and it's down to 45.6%. And just looking back at last year's numbers, like he really struggled to score on the interior consistently in league play. With Baylor last year, he shot 39% inside the arc, and it's starting to kind of trend towards that direction again this season. He's 42% inside the arc against tier A competition. So I do worry a little bit about his scoring efficiency taking a dip even more as league play goes on. Then they're going to be even more reliant on 2 guys in Debansa and Saunders, who are very they're elite options, but they just need a little bit more. But for Houston, I'll talk more about what Houston needs to do defensively as opposed to the offense, because I think they can kind of do their thing off the bounce, like force BYU to, defend pick and roll coverage a little bit differently than they would like. They play drop in the middle of the floor, and just not 100% sure they're going to be able to do that against Kingston Flemings, who, that's his money range is in the mid range off the bounce. He can do it a little bit from 3 as well. So BYU is going to have to defensively, and that's going to open up some of the shooting options of Uzan and Sharp, and then the bench options for for the Cougars, or for the Houston Cougars as well. But defensively, I think is more where Houston's going to win this game, as they win most games, because it's a good matchup for them on the offensive end. But they're going to have to force just other guys on the BYU offense to beat them. Obviously, that's kind of been the main thing. It's either you're going to do that or try to limit DeBance's efficiency while being able to play him one-on-one consistently, which I think they can do. But Houston's a very heavy 2 on the ball defense, so I don't think this isn't really a bad route for them to take either. Houston does give up a high isolation rate, which could be a small issue, but they defend in isolation at an elite clip. I don't think they've seen a guy like DeBanca all season long when it comes to like one-on-one scoring. So in straight up isolation situations, which Houston is fine defending in, there could be some slight issues there just because DeBanca is so good. Rob Wright a little bit as well, attacking off the bounce. And then off-ball screening actions, like Houston typically gives up a lot of off-ball action. So you could worry about a guy like Saunders running off screens consistently. And I do think Richie Saunders is going to be a massive piece in this game, playing off the ball consistently in spot up and off of screens. They're going to have to contain him, because I do think he's a guy that can go for, somewhere in the 25 to 30 range in this game and can carry BYU to a victory. Because, I think he's definitely going to have to, because, BYU runs a ton of pick and roll, and Houston is arguably the best pick and roll defense in the entire country against the pick and roll handler. They're in the 100th percentile in efficiency allowed overall versus handlers, and they force a ton of short roll action. I'm not sure BYU has a guy that can operate in short roll consistently, make decisions out of that area. Like, it's not going to be Kebakeda. He's a guy that's kind of just either in the dunker spot or catching something over the top, getting behind the defense, more in drop coverage. He's not really a guy that he's not really a short roll outlet who can make plays off of that. So I do think Houston taking the ball out of Rob Wright and DeBance's hands in pick and roll is going to be a huge factor in this game. You touched on BYU getting on the glass. I think that's another small concern in this game. Houston's scrambling defense is going to be susceptible to, leaving a free runner going to the rim off of a shot. So that is a small concern, but I think, Houston's ability to rebound on the offensive end is going to, lead to at least an even shot volume battle, at least on the glass, because I do think Houston wins it in turnover margin, as they do in pretty much every single game. BYU has been a bit rough taking care of the ball in league play. I think they're 14th in turnover rate in Big 12 competition, or 12th in Big 12 play. It's been an area of concern for them. And BYU's assist rate just hasn't really been high all season long. And Houston's going to force you to move the ball. And again, that's going to force other guys into the action. Kennard Davis, Kebakeda, and then Richie Saunders. Obviously, I think he can have a good game. But ultimately, I think Houston matches up fairly well on both ends of the floor. And then I think just slowing down BYU is another key. If this game's played in the low 60s in possession count, I do think Houston's going to be pretty well set up for a victory here. And I'll also never doubt Houston when they're playing on the road. I'll never doubt them really in any setting. They've only lost 4 road games in Big 12 play in 2.5 years in this conference. Like, that's a pretty ridiculous number, especially playing in a power conference. So, yeah, I think Houston's pretty well set up, even though they're going to altitude with not a super deep bench. That could be another slight concern here, but I'll never doubt the Cougars.
Yeah. Nothing travels like defense. That's what they say. And it's proven to be true with this Houston Cougar team. So, Marcus, I'm going to let you take it from here and just let us know who you think is going to win this game.
Yeah. BYU is going to be desperate in this matchup, but I just don't trust their depth and their defense enough here. I think Houston's able to kind of generate whatever they want offensively. I think they're able to get on the offensive glass at a fairly high clip. So I'm going to take Houston to pick up the road victory. I do think it's close, kind of lower scoring. I'm going to say Houston wins 73-70.
All right. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I also like Houston. I think, these desperation spots can get a little bit overhyped. I think particularly in the betting markets, especially this time of year. We kind of know what these teams are at this point in the year. We're beginning of February, and matchups, I think, mean more than a team that's super desperate. So I like Houston to get the job done here. BYU could really use this one. They've lost 4 or 5. I think it turns into 5 of 6 here. I just trust Kelvin Sampson. I trust the system. I trust this defense in a road setting. So I think they get it done. I have a very similar score. I have it at 74-70.
Yeah, I mean BYU has definitely been struggling as of late. I do want to highlight the guard play we're gonna see in this game with DeBanza and Flemings. I mean, it's gonna be just phenomenal. And I love watching both of them play. So I'm definitely looking forward to this matchup. Although it is at 10:30 at night, which is a little rough for me, but I'll stay up for this one. I am gonna go with BYU. I think I'm going with BYU here. Everything tells me to pick Houston, but I mean BYU. They are a good team, and I think their offense just shows up against a very good Houston defense, and I think they increase the intensity and they get it done. So I'm going BYU 75-73. Very close game. But any thoughts? Any additional thoughts, fellas?
No.
All right, let's wrap it up here. As always, thank you for listening to the Mainly Hoops podcast.